everybody, welcome to Phaser Friday. Today I want to look at how we get the template phasers in from the MA3 just database that lives within the software, and how we start creating our own template phasers so that we can start working on our own base show file that we can use on every show to help speed up our programming process. Let's go. All right, so first we want to get in these template phasers that MA already has. Now there's an XML file that lives within the software. This is imported into the software in one of two ways. I can bring in the macro via the show creator, totally cool, or if I have a macros pool already open like this one, I can edit it. I can go over here to import and I can start searching for phaser. I'm looking for this file here, import predefined phaser. If I go ahead and click on it and hit input, you can see it changes, adds these 3 lines for me. I just don't know the name of this file, so that's why this macro is the way to go. If we go ahead and click on this, you can see it automatically imports all of these beautiful predefined phasers. There's plenty of them to work with. Most of them are color, but anyway, this gives you a good base of kind of like a couple of base phasers that you could be working on. You can dissect how they're made if you're interested, but I also want to look at making some together so that you have an idea of how we start working on our base show file together. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down here past all these so I have some empty space to work with in my template phaser preset pool here. You'll see I have this universal. I want to try to keep these universal so I can grab any fixture in any show, and it's just a base to go off of. Doesn't mean it's the one I'm storing directly into my queue, right? Those I'm going to store separately in my queue phaser pool, which could be selective or universal, like however you want to work. It does not matter. This is totally up to your MA workflow, but these template ones, we really want to try to keep them universal. Okay, so I'm going to grab my spots gridded group because it has a line here and a line here for this truss. It's exactly what I'm going for. And I'm going to put my lights at 100%. Step 1, right. Step 2, create step 2 over here and set them to 0. Now I have this sine wave, ramp, square, whatever you want to call it, wave going here. They're going up, they're going down. Now, we're going to work on a PWM chase, just kind of getting some bases in there that you can work with different amounts of fixtures. Now, to get a PWM form, we're going to want this to be square. Now, yes, some of you pointed out that there is a form button in here. If I click this little zigzag here, this like drunk Z or whatever you want to call it, there are some forms here I can go ahead and click on that will go ahead and change those transition values for me. But I don't want to necessarily use those right now because I want to show you exactly how they're created, because these buttons are just shortcuts to what's happening in the encoder toolbar, and I do think it's important to always understand everything that's happening in the encoder toolbar. So if you understand and you want to use these shortcuts, go for it. They are here to use, but if you want to know the nitty-gritty of how everything is built, come with me to the encoder toolbar. Now in the encoder toolbar, I want to make sure I have all of my steps selected so that this value is happening to step 1 and 2 at the same time. Saves me a little time. This button is the select all steps button. I know, crazy name. It's got a little 3 dots next to it with a little like reverse symbol, and you're going to find it on the right hand side of the step bar, which is at the bottom of the phaser editor, and also the right hand side of the encoder toolbar next to your create steps button. So I'm going to go ahead and click that so that I have all my steps selected, and then I'm going to hop over here to phaser steps. This is where you're going to find transition. Transition is our friend who we want to work with first. Now transition is automatically set to 100% as soon as you create a phaser. This is a default value. I'm going to go ahead and set it to 0. And this is how that square form is created, right? They snap on, they stay on, they snap off, they stay off. They do that cycle again and again and again, right? Definition of a phaser. Okay, but this is great, but we want to make sure as we're building our templates that we're putting in the values that we want to be affected every time we create a template. So something we also might want to automatically be created is the speed. Whatever you want your base speed to be set to every time you hit a phaser, this is not necessarily what your queue is going to be set to, but this is important because it just gives you a baseline to work with, and that's what we're going for. We want this baseline. Phase, I like to keep that blank in here, especially because these are going to be hard values. They're going to be selective values if you set them in here, and that's why I do not put them in this way in the template phasers. Measure, again, this is going to be very subjective to your programming style. Some people like to leave it set to 1. Some people like to leave it set to 2 in their template. To be honest, it is totally up to you and your programming workflow. So find what works for you and stick with it. That's like the best advice anyone can give you, is just be consistent. It'll help you in the long run. Phaser steps. This is where we want to start playing with for each of these base PWM phasers we might want to work with. You'll notice that as you get more fixtures on stage, you find that you want your width to be smaller. And this is why we want to have multiple of these so we can affect our width just with the click of a button instead of having to like drill into the encoder toolbar. So my first one for step 1, because that's the on step, right? This is the step that we're caring about at the moment. Might set it to 50%, and then this could be my first base, right? This is going to be the widest one. And so I'm going to store this as a template phaser. I might call this PWM width of 50, right? And so then I'm going to activate it again. And now making the others, depending on like what you want, like how many fixtures you're working with, like how many base, maybe you want one that's like 25%. And so I might store this one, label it as PWM 25, activate it again. All right, I did put width in there, and I just said let's be consistent. So let's keep my naming consistent, guys. Maybe I want one that has it at 5%. And so at this point, how many you want, like what kind of options you want, it's going to depend on your programming style. Like I said again. So yeah, if you want ones with a width of 5%, you want them in increments of 5, 10, whatever you find yourself using. Don't give yourself more than you're going to use, right? Because the idea is to keep things quick, keep things like something you can do on the fly. So if you find yourself only needing these 3, great. If you find yourself needing ones that you need a couple more because you're working with them, then just add them to your template phaser. The idea is let's make this process faster. So now that I have some bases here, I can maybe grab my LED wall, maybe set the PWM to 5, and now I'm going to go in here and start playing with my matrix. So matrix this way, maybe I'm going to add a little Y matrix, maybe some wings of 2. Yeah, okay, so here we go, and then maybe let's see if I want to up my speed to possibly 60. And then I'm like, no, I want 50%. No, I want 25%. So now you can see I can, with this base that I just set with a matrix, I can sit here and flip through these and kind of get what I'm going for. Now I'm like, okay, I like this. Let's store this as something that I'm going to put directly into my queue. We'll call this winged in wall. And there we go. Now I very quickly was able to take this base, kind of see what I wanted with my LED wall, create my queue, and go from there. So this was our first installment of what we're looking at with template phasers that we're going to be adding to our show file. Now, if you've already checked out the flyout video and the circle video, you can go ahead and add those to your show file. If not, check out the links, go ahead and watch them and start adding them to your template base, and come back soon for our next Phaser Friday installment.